Hypnotized, but not the one. It's alright. I know what you want. It's the vibe. It's gonna be lit tonight.
JNF everyone. My name is Michelle, and on behalf of my two other JNF colleagues, Avish and Neesha, and the 2018 YJA Convention Committee, I would like to welcome you to the JNF Keynote. Hopefully you've noticed that we make a big effort at YJA to create unique spaces for you, our incredible JNF community. These JNF tailored events are meant to inspire personal and professional growth, and the JNF Keynote is no exception. We're all at a stage in our lives where we're looking for role models and mentors, people who are achieving in big ways and whose journeys and careers offer us valuable insights into how we might become the people we want to be.
Today, you will be hearing from Ashwani Jain, a Montgomery County, Maryland politician, 15-year cancer survivor, and Jain American. He has extensive experience working in the private and nonprofit sectors. Not only that, for the past 10 years, he worked with the Obama-Biden administration in various capacities, such as assisting individuals to enroll in affordable health care, organizing a cancer moonshot summit, and helping our nation's veterans find affordable housing, while also holding leadership roles across the executive branch during his time at the White House. Ashwani accomplished all this and more during and after his battle with cancer. He is the epitome of resilience and optimism. We can't wait to listen to Ashwani's inspiring keynote. Please join me in welcoming Ashwani Jain to the stage.
I got involved in politics completely by accident. 15 years ago, when I was 13, I was diagnosed and treated for cancer. I remember sitting in the hospital not knowing if I'm going to live to see tomorrow, and also finding that people stopped talking with me as a human being and kept talking about me like I was just a name on a piece of paper. So I felt powerless, but I also felt determined to make sure that no one else felt as powerless as I was. And pretty much 13 years later, I now got to be in the room with the Vice President of the United States talking about how do we find solutions and cures for cancer. Because the reality is that as members of our communities, we can make deliberate choices to excel. But we also need our politicians, our elected officials, to make deliberate choices that engage and empower us to excel. And through my work with President Obama in his White House and administration and campaigns, I have done just that. I've helped engage and empower communities here in Montgomery County for the last 10 years. I ran efforts to increase the diversity of our government, to get more families here in Montgomery County access to affordable housing and affordable health care. In March, I took a break from the campaign and trained middle and high school students to effectively lobby our state legislators in support of banning bump stocks and keeping guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. I'm a strong believer that the role of government is to ensure equality of opportunity by investing in its citizens. My family immigrated to this country from India with very limited resources. After my parents got married, my mother became a contractor for the EPA, while my father struggled to start his own business in an outdoor flea market right here in Montgomery County. And I'm proud to say that today, because of the investments that were made by the federal, the state, and the local Montgomery County government, my parents are successful small business owners. And I'm running because I really want other people to feel empowered and engaged in our politics, in our decisions, and want them to really have a seat at the table. On June 26th, I'm asking for your vote to become one of your next at-large members on the Montgomery County Council. And I would be humbled to be your partner and your voice in the Montgomery County government. Thank you so much. JNF. When I was scheduled to come here and speak to you all, I was planning on doing so as a winner. I was going to talk all about how if you're kind, sincere, patient, and hardworking, nothing can get in the way of your dreams. It may take a while, but you'll get there. This was a campaign ad that my team and I aired about a month ago. The primary, as you heard, was on June 26th, so about a week ago. But I lost. I'm here today not as the youngest or first Indian council member for Montgomery County, Maryland. Instead, I'm here today as someone who fought for his dream and came up a little short. So what am I doing here today? What special words of wisdom can I share with each of you? Well, I think it may help if I start from the beginning of my journey. And in doing so, show you how important it is to reconnect with your roots. After all, to have strong roots is necessary for plants to thrive under any condition. The same goes for us as people. We need a secure and strong foundation from which we can develop, blossom, and better understand ourselves and our place in this journey that we call life. You all saw this in my campaign ad, but I want you all to walk you through it. 15 years ago, I was 13 and in the middle of 8th grade. Like most boys, I thought I was invincible. I teased my younger sister, gave my parents a hard time, and ran around the house with my underwear on my head thinking I was Superman. Who doesn't, right? But that all changed when I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer. Now, for a 13-year-old kid, cancer didn't really have any meaning. Sure, I had heard about it before, but it was something that only old people got. I knew that cancer patients were bald, looked very sick, and were always in the hospital. I also knew that after some time, I never saw some of those cancer patients ever again. But you see, what really hurt me during my diagnosis was seeing my mom and dad cry for the first time. It was having my parents look at me like I was about to die. It was seeing all of my friends and family come in and out of the house, bringing boxes of tissues and baskets of gifts. It was not being able to attend my last year of middle school or hang out with any of my friends. It was spending every day on x-ray machines and hospital beds. It was about seeing kids younger than I was go through more pain and agony than I had to. It was having numerous painful surgeries that seemed to have no end in sight. It was all of the bandages and the scars. It was that my life got turned completely upside down. That's what cancer was for me. And through my experience with cancer, from my initial diagnosis to the surgeries and the procedures that followed, I felt completely out of control. I was in a continuous state of recovery and never in a place of victory. And I lost hope countless times during my treatments. I felt that life had treated me unfairly and that I deserved better. And I felt that people stopped talking with me as a person and kept talking about me like I was just a number. So I felt powerless. And that tested my faith. It's really hard to stay connected to your roots. Faced with physical and mental health issues, I wondered, how could I draw on my religion to get me through this pain? Now, while I could not match the sacrifices made by our Janthruthunkers, I surely could try to match their sense of calmness of the mind. While I could not match their devotion or ability to be victorious of all of their inner enemies, I surely could match their appreciation of living in the moment. And while I could not attain full enlightenment or the true knowledge that they strove for, I surely could try to understand that everything happens for a reason. Now, once I reconnected with these principles, my life started turning in the right direction. In 2005, shortly after my cancer treatments were completed, I was connected to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and they granted my wish to meet Academy Award-winning actor Denzel Washington. I know. Now, at the time, Denzel, or Zell as I called him, he was doing a Broadway show in New York. So, Make-A-Wish had a limo pick my family and I up from our home in Maryland to take us to the train station. Now, that was my first and only time riding in a limo. And if you can all remember, when you're a kid, the best seat in the car is the passenger seat. So yes, I spent my first time in a limo sitting next to the driver when my family was enjoying true luxury in the back. I still don't forgive them for it. Anyway, we got to New York, got a tour of the city, and then got front row seats to watch Denzel perform. Afterwards, we got to go backstage and meet the entire cast and crew. And after about 10 minutes, I look up, only to find that from the dark abyss arises the man himself, Denzel Washington. And he is exactly what you would expect. The same walk, the same talk. It was amazing. And he took us to his dressing room and chatted with us for about 20 minutes. And for those 20 minutes, nothing else mattered. Cancer had just become another word in the dictionary. And that really was a turning point in my life. You know, up to that moment, I had felt a lot of guilt. Everything I had done up to that point had caused my family a lot of pain. But here we were, meeting this big-time movie star, and everyone was so happy. And I made that happen. So I thought to myself, man, I want to replicate this feeling of joy and empowerment and happiness to as many kids as possible. So I started volunteering then for the Make-A-Wish Foundation and also the American Cancer Society. I also decided to get involved in politics, to try to make policy changes that engage and empower those of us who feel like we don't have a seat at the table. In an effort to serve my community on a larger scale, I started working for President Obama in February of 2007, when I was just a senior in high school. And I continued to work for him until I left his White House in January of 2017, just last year. Now, when I left the Obama White House, I planned to take 6 months to enjoy my first real vacation in 10 years. But I only made it 3 days before I decided I could not just sit idly by as all of my hard work was being systematically dismantled in a way that, in my opinion, would hurt so many of the American people that my team and I worked for. So I prayed. I spoke with my parents, my sister, and my mentors to see how I can continue making a real impact in my own community. And then I decided to run for office. We put a kitchen cabinet together, built a rough outline of a platform, and created next steps. And then we were off. Now, I've been a part of several campaigns, but I never imagined that running your own campaign could be that difficult. You know, you have to put your entire life on display for people to critically judge. And in addition to the extremely long hours and the thick skin that one needs to develop, you also have to find a good team that you can trust without any reservations. And after all of that, you still have to be okay with the fact that none of it guarantees victory. A lot of people put a lot of faith and belief in me. They all put in a lot of hours, brain power, resources, and energy into my campaign. And for that, I honestly can't help but feel like I let some of them down. I know that may not seem like a logical thought process, but it's how I've been feeling for the last few days. I've been feeling sad, frustrated, angry, humbled, and grateful all at the same time. And I've been feeling a lot of self-doubt and uncertainty about what my next steps are going to be. And once again, I find it difficult to reconnect with my Jain roots. But I'm reminded that loss is inevitable, and that to truly believe in ahimsa, I must not only refrain from doing harm to others, but to myself as well. I must work to positively promote forgiveness, compassion, and understand how fortunate I really am. Because you know what? Life doesn't work out the way you planned it all the time. Sometimes you want a unicorn, but life gives you a goat. Now, don't get me wrong, goats are amazing, and they're cute. And did you know that goats have 4 stomachs? What does this have to do with anything I'm saying? Nothing, but if you didn't like anything I said, at least you can say you learned something. Did you also know that the word goat can also be an acronym for the greatest of all time. You like that transition? And it's with that spirit that I'm here today. I am learning once again that losing does not have to be an end, but can be a beginning. Things can get better. And you can still move towards your own path of greatness. It's not always easy to stay positive, believe me. But we all know how going through a loss of any kind can be tough. And for anyone who feels depressed or feels like the world is against them, I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. Now, I want to try something, so please indulge me for a sec. Now, I want you all to stand up if you've ever been confused about your next steps. Can you please, anyone who's been confused about their next step, stand up and stay standing, please. That's a lot of folks. Now, that's a lot of folks. Now please, bear with me here. Please stand up or stay standing if you've ever been told that you're too young to make a difference. Now please stand up or stay standing if you're the real Slim Shady. Now please stay, wait, we're not done yet. Now please stand up or stay standing if you've ever applied for an internship, a job, or a college that you did not get. Now please stand up or stay standing. Please stand up or stay standing if you've ever failed at finishing one of those huge Chipotle burritos. It's just impossible to finish. And please, I failed multiple times at it. And please stand up or stay standing if you've ever felt alone or misunderstood. Thank you all for that standing ovation. That's amazing. But in seriousness, look around. Right? Clearly, we all have our own struggles and our own battles and our own unique experiences. But no matter how different mine may appear from yours, we can all learn from one another. From me, I hope people can understand that no matter how bad things are, they could always be worse. I think having this perspective can allow you to not only live in the moment and appreciate what you have, but also take on whatever new challenges you may come across in a much stronger, more positive, and more effective manner. Yes, I lost an election that I worked my butt off for. I spent almost 2 years of my life working so hard, sacrificing time to spend with my family, my friends, my fiance, constantly asking people to spend their valuable time and money on my campaign. And it didn't have the intended outcome that we were hoping for. But because of that work, as a first-time candidate who was the youngest in a field of 33 people, I came in 8th place. I was able to build an operation that beat 25 people. And I got 18,422 votes. And I was the only political candidate in the entire state of Maryland that got a former Vice President, Joe Biden, to endorse me. So, perspective is important. Or as we say in Jainism, awareness is important if we are to truly adhere to ahimsa. Besides, at the end of the day, contrary to what DJ Khaled says, winning is not everything. Instead, our goal in life should be to get outside of our comfort zones, follow our passion, and participate in something that we feel is important and bigger than ourselves. We are all so lucky to be living in this moment in time. But that luck needs to be shared with others. And if losing something makes you stop working for it, then clearly that path is not meant for you. Instead, if losing makes you work harder, then you know it's what you were destined for. And isn't that mentality what Jainism is all about? Right? Isn't Jainism all about positivity, optimism, empathy, and an ability to be very self-reflective? For me, my adherence to these Jain principles allowed me to be more calm when there's chaos around, more empathetic to the struggles of others, more optimistic and grateful for what I've been able to accomplish thus far, more understanding of how I can improve for next time, and more assured of the path that I am on. So my advice to you all is as follows. First and foremost, breathe. Because if you don't, you'll just die, like just right away. It won't happen. Second, reconnect with your Jain roots in the same way that I am learning to do so right now. Now, the easiest way to do this is to focus on building meaningful relationships. In Jainism, we are taught that the relationship between our soul and our actions, or karma, can either hurt us or help us in the future. In the same way, building meaningful relationships with others around us, whether it be at school, at work, in your community, or obviously right here at this convention, it can help open doors of opportunity in the future. But as Jainism also teaches us, we must have balance. While a lot of people think that all you need is connections to become successful, I have learned that connections do not entitle you to a career. Instead, connections entitle you to an opportunity to have a career. So you must work hard and stay true to your values and to your principles. Then the connections and the opportunities will come naturally. Third, focus on what you want to do, not what you want to be. No one should consider a career in politics, or anything for that matter, for the title, the position, or the prestige. Instead, just as Jainism teaches us to avoid pointless sins like being self-indulgent, you should spend your time focusing on how you can help those around you, what issues you want to elevate, and then how can you best advocate for those issues. Fourth, do not let anyone discourage you from fulfilling your dreams and pursuing the work that you want to accomplish. Keep the faith, keep the passion, the optimism, and the positivity. Now, I said this in one of the breakouts earlier, but I have found that respect is earned, not given. Unfortunately, as young people of color, we often find it more challenging to earn the respect in the workplace or at school or in your community. Oftentimes, we also find ourselves as the youngest and or only people of color. And this results in us less likely to be promoted, less likely to get more challenging assignments, less likely to be consulted on input for important decisions, less likely to get credit for our own ideas, and more likely to be ignored at meetings. I'm sure some of you have faced this in your own lives. But by incorporating the values of Jainism, we can reduce these opportunity gaps and start to earn the respect that we deserve. Fifth, smile. Much of the success I've had in my life is because I've smiled and made everyone around me feel good about being around me. This made them more receptive to my ideas, more supportive of my work, more enthusiastic about being part of my journey. It's a really small thing, but the world is full of smart and talented people. Smiling can help you stand out. It's also just another step in us fully appreciating what Jainism teaches us, to love each and every creature around us and to spread positivity. Sixth, I want folks to understand that to become successful, all you really need is passion, a willingness to learn, humility, and a clear explanation of why working for a specific organization gives you a way to solve the issues that you're passionate about. People will support you, not because they think you're the smartest, but because they think you'll be easy to work with and sincerely represent their interests and their values. Mahavirji once said that all life is bound together by mutual support and interdependence. Now, what I take away from that is if you can be someone who is dependable, then the level of support you will get can be boundless. Seventh, get involved. We had a saying in the Obama White House that people are policy. And we cannot expect our elected officials or our leaders to make decisions that truly reflect our values unless those officials truly reflect the diversity of their constituents. So, if you see decisions being made that you don't agree with, whether it's decisions at your school, at your place of work, in your neighborhood association, or in your local, state, or federal government, then make your voice heard. And if you don't have a seat at that table where decisions are being made, then create that seat. That's what Mahavirji did for Jainism. He worked hard to follow his faith and created pathways of opportunity for others who shared his values before he finally achieved his goal of enlightenment. Finally, I hope more people will share their own personal stories of loss and success. I cannot emphasize enough the power of speaking. Silence breeds fear and uncertainty. By sharing my story here today, I hope I can offer some of you hope. So I will end on that hopeful tone and quote something that I try to live by every day. It's by the actor Michael J. Fox. Quote, "For everything this disease has taken, something with greater value has been given. Sometimes just a marker that points me in a new direction that I might not have otherwise traveled." So yes, it may be one step forward and 2 steps back. But what I've learned is it's really important to make that 1 step count. And folks, I believe that in doing so, we can all better our own karma and begin to really honor the sacrifices made by Mahavirji, who never compromised on his ideals and never withdrew from the path he chose to follow. So thank you all so much. It's an honor to be here, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ashwani, for that amazing keynote. We have a few minutes for some questions, if you want to ask anything.
We got a question.
What kind of opportunities are you open to next? What are you considering?
So the question was, what's next? What kind of opportunities I'm looking for? Honestly, I'm still figuring that out right now. You know, the election just happened a week ago. We just closed up the office a couple days ago. It's a healing process. The first thing that I'm doing is actually taking my fiance to Disney World tomorrow night for about a week. So what I tell people is I lost, but I'm still going to Disney. No, I mean, look, I've been assured of the path of public service that I'm not going to change. So whether that means working for another political candidate for the 2020 presidential elections, whether that means maybe starting my own thing, working for another political organization of some sort, I know I definitely want to stay involved in politics for the rest of my life. And so now I'm just kind of seeing what might be available.
So why Montgomery County City Council? Was it just like the election that was available, or?
Yeah, so the question was, why did I choose to run for the office I ran for, which is the Montgomery County Council. Montgomery County is home to 1 million residents. Also, 4 of the top 10 most diverse cities in the United States are housed in Montgomery County. I was born there, I was raised there, I lived all over that county. And for me, local government as an elected official was kind of my way to fight back against some of the injustices that I've been seeing at the federal level and really make an impact. And there happened to be some open seats, but it was more so just figuring out where can I really make a huge impact right away. Now, obviously, that didn't happen, and so now maybe looking back at, okay, if the local government wasn't an opportunity right now, maybe I have to go back to state or federal government in the meantime. But at the end of the day, just finding ways to really make a real impact on folks. Yeah, all the way in the back. Yeah, absolutely. So the question was, what was my role in the Cancer Moonshot? So in January of 2016, President Obama, in his final State of the Union, declared that our administration is going to help find cures for cancer. And he tasked Vice President Biden with that initiative that we call the Cancer Moonshot. I was the director of outreach for that program. It was my job to really build a national movement where I got individuals and kind of broke down the silos that typically occur in the cancer community. In the cancer community, you have researchers, doctors, philanthropists, and patients that don't always meet together in the same room. So a lot of times people are duplicating their efforts, or the patient's voice is not always being heard and listened to. So from the directive of the Vice President, it was my job to create what they called a summit, a mini summit, in all 50 states and Puerto Rico and Guam to figure out how can we build these communities, whether it's at a large institution or just a small, in someone's living room, to kind of open that dialogue and figure out how can we find new models of collaboration. And so it was a great success. Again, in just a month, and with just only one intern, I was able to create 273 of these events all across the country, and that eventually got $5 billion in additional funding for the National Institute of Health, the NIH, which is also housed in Montgomery County, Maryland. And so now that work is being continued still at the NIH, but also through the Biden Cancer Initiative.
You talked a little bit about how sometimes our identity as people of color or other identities can come up in the workplace and what we do professionally. And as there aren't that many Janes in politics, can you talk about like if and how that came up? Like, do people ask questions about it at like town hall meetings and things like that? And how, if at all, did you present it?
Yeah, I mean, so is the question, because there's not a lot, how do I kind of break through that mold?
Yeah, or like what happened, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I experienced in my life and all my previous jobs, and definitely running my own campaign, a lot of people discount you because you're the youngest person, you're a person of color. If you're a woman, that's a whole nother issue. Then they really disrespect you. Women face a whole nother set of obstacles, and it's ridiculous. And so for me, what I always found is when I walk into a room, just look at this campaign, in my opinion, I thought I was able to accomplish a lot. And yet I'm walking into these rooms with these other candidates and these other voters, and they look at me saying, okay, why are you here? Are you doing this for a school project? Do you know what you're running for? Do you know this is supposed to represent 1 million people? Are you sure you're ready for this, kid? I got a lot of those people. I got a lot of people who said, oh, your name's funny. Like, what country are you from? Again, things that I'm sure we've all faced in smaller ways in our own lives. And so what I've learned when you're in that kind of a position, you just gotta stay positive, keep smiling, kind of kill them with kindness. It really does work. And then work harder, study harder. I studied all the policies I could study. I studied all the history of Montgomery County. So when I came to a meeting, I went to an event, someone asked a question, I knew all of the answers. And I did it in a very respectful way. And I think when I did that, it kind of caught some people off guard. And then they started to respect me. There's obviously going to be those group of people that you're never going to win them over. You can't focus too much time on them. You got to focus on the people you can win over. And again, that applies to everything in our own lives. And like I said, there was not an opportunity for a Indian American, for a young person, for a Jan to be in this current council. Unfortunately, there is still not. But what I decided was I'm going to create that seat. And I put together a good team of people. I studied hard. I worked harder than anybody else. I got up, as early as possible. I knocked on doors until 9 p.m. every single day, and then, did 2 hours of emails and calls after that. So just prove yourself through your work, and one of these days it will pay off.
You got a favorite Denzel movie?
Yeah. So the reason I decided to meet Denzel in the first place was this is 2005. At that time, he did this movie called John Q. Have you all heard that movie? So first of all, that's not a movie for a kid to watch. There's a lot of cursing in that movie. But when I saw that movie, it was about a father whose son has a health condition and is going through the health experience. The insurance companies are giving the kid a hard time. And I saw this movie, I was like, oh my God, he gets me. He understands the struggles. So I was like, I gotta meet this guy. And so that was, I would say that's probably my most favorite movie. Yeah.
Do you have any good Joe Biden stories you can share?
Well, I'll share a funny one and then a more serious one. Funny one was for this cancer moonshot. We had brought it up with the vice president, a couple months before the actual State of the Union. That okay, like Obama's going to announce this thing at the State of the Union. It's going to be called the Cancer Moonshot. We want you to lead it. But at the State of the Union, if you can actually watch this, you can see it on the video. But if you're watching the president speak and he says, we're going to call this the Cancer Moonshot, and I'm designating my friend Joe Biden to run this program. And Joe Biden in the back, he was like, really? So he went, like after that event, he asked the team, he says, wait, what is this again? I said, well, sir, we told you about this. So, he has a lot of other things going on, and that was obviously just a couple months after his own son passed away, so he was going through a lot. Funny story, the more serious note was, which I think kind of ties in my whole experience, and I think we might be running a little over. The way I was brought on to run the Cancer Moonshot program, at that time I was serving as the White House liaison at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, so I was already serving in a different capacity. People in the administration knew my passion for cancer and advocating for cancer patients, so they said, okay, we want you to run this program. I got to sit in Vice President Biden's office, just right down the hallway from the Oval Office. I'm sitting there. Vice President Biden walks in. This is my first time having a meeting with him. And the first thing I notice is he has tears in his eyes. He sits down and he tells me, hey, I just met with 2 parents who lost their own son to cancer. And then he starts reminiscing about his own loss of his own son to cancer a few months back. And I started feeling really sad and feeling like, not only remembering what's happening in front of him, but remembering my own story with cancer and all the kids that I met through my work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But that was a moment where I was given an opportunity that was not always there. I had a seat at the table, and I said, I'm not going to waste this opportunity. And that's when I decided to work hard, and it really was kind of like a life come full circle moment that, I had cancer at 13, and 13 years later, I get to work on this program. And that's the kind of mentality that I want to leave you all with. I hope you all take that kind of mentality in your own lives. It's, like I said, it's really an honor to be here. This is not only just a great experience, but it is really part of my own healing experience. So thank you so much for all the work you all have done.
Ashwani will be around if you guys want to chat a little bit more, ask a few more questions. But thank you again for being our JNF keynote. I'm sure everyone thoroughly enjoyed it and will feel so energized and motivated after hearing your story. So thank you again. We have a small token of appreciation for you.
And in addition to that, we also made a donation in your honor to the Make-A-Wish Foundation for the Mid-Atlantic region.